All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Resenha IBJJF, and we're back with another special guest. And today we're going to talk about wrestling and Jiu Jitsu and ADCC as well. And I would like our guest here to introduce himself because he's got a lot of accolades that I maybe don't entirely understand, and that's what we're going to learn today.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Reed. I wrestled in the NAIA, which is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. It's basically the private schools in the United States. Um, Everyone usually knows NCAA, which is D1 through D3. The NAIA is not a part of the NCAA, so it's its kind of own little division. Yeah, I'm a four-time All-American, and then recently I got invited to do the plus 99 division at ADCC, and I'm doing my training camp here in Mount Vernon, Illinois, under Pedigo Submission Fighting. So yeah, that's basically it for me.
I'm really excited to have you here, Brandon, because I feel like wrestling and jiu-jitsu is a topic that just keeps coming up, especially every time there's an ADCC. Everyone
Yeah.
is always talking about the importance of wrestling in jiu-jitsu. And I felt like with your background, like with your social media, with your YouTube channel, you do a really great job of explaining how wrestling can work with jiu-jitsu, right?
Hmm.
So you do a lot of kind of like tutorials on the different wrestling techniques and how they've helped you with your jiu-jitsu. But
Hmm.
I kind of want to go back a little bit and talk about kind of when you were wrestling, was there ever an idea that you would go into jiu-jitsu? Like what is a wrestler's perspective like when you're all fighting for like, the world championships, the highest levels of wrestling? Like do you amongst your amazing wrestler friends and that, are you thinking about jiu-jitsu? What are the
Uh,
thoughts of a wrestler on jiu-jitsu?
yeah, so I got really lucky. I got introduced to jiu-jitsu really early. So my coach, I lived with my wrestling coach in high school, and he was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So I pretty much knew what jiu-jitsu was. I didn't really do it. I would mess around and visit Chewy during the summers or whatever because we lived in the same city. So I would do it here and there, like in 2017, 18, 19, like maybe twice in a summer. Like every summer I would do it like twice, maybe. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. And towards the end of my college wrestling career, I watched the Nicky Rod Black Belt Slayer documentary. Like everyone's seen it, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely doing jujitsu. But as far as the outlook of jujitsu towards from wrestlers, I think it's like almost non-existent. Like no one talks about jujitsu, whereas now doing jujitsu, everyone talks about wrestling, and it's really weird. So I don't think I would have really even known about jujitsu had my wrestling coach not had been like an MMA fighter and a jujitsu practitioner. So I kind of got lucky and thrown into the world, but I've never had anyone on my wrestling teams from the lowest to the highest level even bring up jujitsu, to be quite honest. So yeah,
It
that's
is
that's
kind of
my
funny.
experience with it. Yeah,
Like jiu-jitsu almost has a huge reverence for wrestling. Like there's a ton of respect for wrestlers because just like the
yeah,
condition you guys have to go through, like the mental strength that you need to have in wrestling.
hmm,
Jiu-jitsu people like very much like I feel like revere it, but it's
yeah.
not reciprocated.
No, no, it's weird. Yeah, it's such a unique thing, right? It's like it's extremely interesting because jujitsu in its own right is so much harder than wrestling, and in my opinion, the technical aspect of jujitsu is so much harder than wrestling. Wrestling, the attribute, like the physicality of it is so much more difficult than jujitsu. Um, but they're both just so. People always ask, man, which is harder, and I'm just like both. They're both so hard. They're just hard in different ways. Like wrestling is going to get you more out of breath, but in jujitsu, it's like I can be a much better athlete, and then I got go plotted by a 45-year-old man. You know what I mean? So it's like in wrestling that you're not going to get beat by a 45-year-old person when you're much more athletic than them. But in jiu-jitsu, you can. So I mean, man, they're both just so difficult and just both just so humbling. So I love both of them for that reason. But yeah,
I know for wrestling, at least maybe stateside, there isn't really an avenue for like the adult recreational athlete or the adult like hobbyist. So how did you go from like was that natural transition for you? Like, okay, I finished college, I finished like wrestling for now. I
hmm.
guess I have to go to jujitsu? Or how did you transition to jujitsu after college?
So Yeah, like I said, my high school wrestling coach was a jiu-jitsu guy, and a few weeks after my last national tournament, I was just getting really bored, and there was like a local before I moved back to Louisville, there was like a local gym in Columbia, Kentucky called 13 Jiu-Jitsu, and they would host practices in the wrestling room, and I was just like, I'm bored. I'm gonna start doing this until I go back home, and then I just like really fell in love with it, and then yeah, like 2 weeks into doing it, I competed for the first time. That went horribly wrong or horribly bad. I got heel hooked in like 13 seconds. Um, and I was just like, oh, this is super cool. Like, I'm just going to keep doing this. So I got really lucky. Jiu-jitsu was basically in my home, the wrestling room. Um, and I was just like, why not? And like I said, I watched like the Black Belt Slayer documentary, like right towards the end of my wrestling career. And I was just like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I want to do this. So that kind of helped push me into jiu-jitsu, the Nicky Rod stuff. And then obviously having the connection with my coach, and then it just a lot of stuff came together, and I was just like, I should do this. This seems fun.
Were you thinking kind of from the beginning, oh, I want to take this to the highest levels? Like, I want to go to ADCC one day?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, uh, again, everything started because of I'm gonna keep saying it, but everything started because of that documentary that Flo put out about Nicky Rod. I was like, this dude's like he's a badass. This is so cool. I want to do this too. This looks fun. And I was just like, I want to go to ADCC one day. It was my biggest goal. Some people think it's stupid. It wasn't for the money or anything. I do fine financially with my own stuff, but I was just like, I just want to go to do it. And it's funny because like a lot of wrestlers have, and this is like kind of off topic, but a lot of guys have asked me about like the CJI ADCC stuff. They're like, man, but like CJI doesn't give you the money, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's cool, I guess, if like all your money comes from competing. But in the wrestling culture, lots of we compete for free, whether you're a Division I national champ or an NAIA national champion, you're competing for free just because it's a goal thing, And ADCC was just so cool. I was just like, this would be just another notch on my belt if I could just go, Winning's cool too. I'm working really hard, but it was just like, I just want to go. I just want to experience the environment. And yeah, I don't know what the question was, but I went on that little tangent there about like why we do it, or at least why I do it, and why I assume lots of wrestlers do it too.
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear you've got that kind of mindset that you want to be the best that you can be. And the natural extension of that would be going to one of the biggest tournaments in the world, which would be ADCC, of course, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's super cool. I got lucky. Obviously, I wasn't supposed to go to ADCC this year, but with Craig doing what he's doing, and with it was very last minute. Gutenberg, the Brazilian guy from AOJ, who knows why, but he pulled out of ADCC right last minute. He didn't. I thought it was because of the CJI thing, but hey, I don't know. He just pulled out of ADCC, and they're like, "Oh, you want to do ADCC?" And I was like, "Well, sure, why not?" I was already here with Pixley, being one of his training partners, and I was like, well, you're already training with him, might as well, do it. But yeah, pretty lucky to do it this year. Definitely wasn't supposed to happen, but here we are.
Hey, you take the opportunities as they come.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm curious, like when you were starting jiu-jitsu, like you were obviously probably still in that wrestler's mindset. How did you come to adapt your skills as a wrestler to jiu-jitsu? Because the incentives between, say, jiu-jitsu Rulesets, whether it's IBJJF and ADCC, are still very much different to anything you have done in collegiate wrestling. So what were the things that made it easier for you to transition, and what were maybe some of the bad habits that I shouldn't say bad habits, but the things that didn't transition well?
Yeah, and I mean, just a completely different rule set and a completely different mindset. In my first couple of in my first couple of jiu-jitsu tournaments, my first two jiu-jitsu tournaments it was Naga, and then it was Blue Belt Worlds. And both of those tournaments, I got submitted in like 10 to 15 seconds. Just because of again, it was just like, one of them, funny enough, was I got submitted by my training partner right now, Michael Pixley. It was like in front headlocks in wrestling where there's these things called stalemates. You learn to grab the elbow, hold it here, and just kind of wait for the ref to call you up. Well, you do that in jiu-jitsu and you're getting guillotined, right? You're getting high elbow guillotined. And that one was like the most, I remember just being like, dang it, I can't believe that just happened to me. Like 10 seconds. I've never gone out in 10 seconds ever in anything. And so that was a really bad habit, was just like in a very like situation that seems very similar in the two. It's very different. And then obviously leg locks still to this day. I mean, I got Aoki locked by Mike Perez, but even earlier before it was just getting heel hooked a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many technical adjustments that I had to make and that I continue to have to make, of course. But I'm getting a lot better. You know, it's been about 3 years, going on 4-ish, like getting close to 4. And I'm getting a little bit better. Still pretty horrible, but you know, we're making progress.
Was there any like specific habits that you would say from wrestling that really gave you advantage? Obviously, there's obvious things like, oh, like you're probably really good at takedowns, but maybe like certain like situational stuff, like whether it's pins or just even the hand fighting stuff that really gave you
Yeah,
an
yeah, for sure. Pinning, definitely one of them. I think taking the athleticism and like ability to scramble has been something that's been really helpful against. I tend to do really well against like all the guys who do like there's a lot of scrambly stuff. Like I tend to do really well in scrambles, and I think it comes from being in a wrestling room where we scrambled quite a bit. Uh, and then obviously takedowns and hand fight. Like most people in jiu-jitsu just absolutely suck at takedowns, even like the highest level guys. This isn't me saying they suck, because they could just pull guard, right? Like that's amazing. It's such a great option. But just like in general, for people who do, it's been quite an advantage. Um, so yeah, like the hand fighting, the athleticism, the ability to scramble, and then like the mindset to, specifically for ADCC, it's like the mindset to like not give up sweeps and then just continue moving and continue to, like we just say, like wrestle through positions. I don't know what you would call it in jiu-jitsu, but just the scrimmaging, I guess, you know, wrestling through positions and scrimmaging. That's something that wrestling really helped me with, and it's very difficult to teach too. So I'm grateful I had a couple years of doing that before I started doing jiu-jitsu.
I wonder, like, like, have you watched any of the matches between, like, say, Bo Nickel and Oliver Taza, and like Gordon Ryan, or, like Bo Nickel, the Pat Downey kind of super fights? How do you think their wrestling has gone? Like, say, Gordon Ryan's wrestling versus Bo Nickel, or like Gordon Ryan versus Pat Downey. Do you think? Because we honestly think now that Gordon Ryan is one of the best top players right now. I
For
wonder how
sure.
that compares.
Oh, it's yeah, that was those matches are kind of gimmicky, right? Like I think it's almost like not those matches aren't a service to Gordon or Bo or Pat. Like um I think I would like to see those matches again in ADCC rule sets, even with Gordon deciding to just wrestle. Like a great match that I like to refer to a lot is Gordon Ryan versus Lucas Barbosa at ADCC 2019, where you actually get to see how Gordon wrestles in the ADCC rule set, which I don't think is as applicable as it was with the Bo Nickel thing. Bo's wrestling is just amazing. Pat's wrestling is just amazing. I mean, there are guys that I'm not even close to their level of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like they're just amazing wrestlers. So obviously they're going to have the advantage on the feet, but I would have been more interested to actually see those matches in an ADCC rule set, even with no leg locks. Right? I know Gordon tapped Pat with a power half. I don't even know how that's even possible. And then he triangled Bo, I guess, I believe. I haven't watched those matches in so long, but like they're kind of stuck in my memory. But I would like to see, or I would even like to see a practice. I trained with Gordon and Big Dan last year, and trying to actually pin Gordon's hips to the mat when he doesn't want you to pin his hips to the mat is so hard. It's a lot harder than people think it is, because in matches he often just lets you take him down. You're just like, oh, whatever. But in reality, I mean, he's so good at scrimmaging. He's so good at getting into submissions that like his counter wrestling is so much better than I even needed to show in those matches. So yeah, regardless, I would like to see those matches where something real is on the line, like ADCC. I think Gordon would probably show just how good he actually is with scrimmage wrestling. I don't think he really cared to in those matches. That just there was no stakes, you know. But that's my opinion.
It's funny watching those matches because, again, like I have a very jiu-jitsu perspective, like, and then looking at the comments of them, say the Oliver Taza and the Bo Nickel one. A lot of wrestlers look at those matches and think, "Oh, this is like." I think one of the first comments on the Bo Nickel one was with Taza was, "This is why you put your children in wrestling and not jiu-jitsu." So
Stupid.
it's so interesting to see how a wrestler and a jiu-jitsu person can look at one match and see two totally different results, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean I think because wrestlers don't have any idea about what happens after the pin, right? Or they don't know what know what a guard is, you know? Like they have no idea. So to them, they're like, I'm on top, I'm winning. But realistically, I didn't watch the Oliver Tazabo Nickel match because I think it was on UFC Fight Pass. I think I missed it. But I assume there was no submission or anything. I don't really know what happened in that match. But my guess is Oliver probably did Oliver win? Or
Oliver won. It was there's a cut up version on YouTube and it's like titled like butt scooting merchant versus
yeah.
wrestler. And it
Yeah.
was basically a lot of very cagey kind of outside passing from
Mhm.
Bo Nickel, really trying to avoid getting too tight and too entangled. And Oliver just kind of chasing, trying to hold on to some kind of leg. But then
Yeah.
Bo just stripping it basically.
Yeah,
It
and
was
as you're like, we know that's a win. That's a win for Oliver. He's moving forward, you know.
yes, he's trying to be the more aggressive player. But
Yeah,
it is very
100%.
interesting, like watching these super matches, and like for example, I think Gordon Ryan had the back to back wrestling match with Pat Downey, and then they went to a submission grappling, and immediately people were like, "Oh, he was it a tech fall to Gordon, where
Yeah,
he just kind of pushed him out constantly and was getting the 1 point
yeah.
thing."
Like, what does that
And
mean? Yeah,
what does that
yeah,
mean? Exactly.
yeah.
And then
What
when
is
you're
that?
watching that with your jiu-jitsu lens, you're like, man,
Yeah.
he hasn't scored a single point in a jiu-jitsu rule set.
It's nothing. It's stupid. It's so much on that point. People think I'm BSing. My wrestling friends, even some jiu-jitsu people, they're like, man, it's so easy to score takedowns. And I'm like, have you done an ADCC rule set match and actually tried to secure 2 hooks on a guy with 0 wrestling experience, but he's just really good at jiu-jitsu and he's really good at the rule? Dude, scoring, man, it's so difficult. Uh, that match is such a great example. I hate freestyle wrestling. I'm a very folk style wrestling homer because you can tech fall someone 10-0 and never have to take them down. It's like
Yeah.
Pat Downey versus Nicky Rod, and they had a freestyle match. It was the same story. You just push Nicky Rod out a bunch of times, but you're like in a real match, and hopefully that happens in CJI. Nicky Rod kills Pat Downey. Like Pat's not going to score. Like there's this, he might take him down, but he's not going to score. It's not going to happen. But
Well, it's funny because if we were like kind of looking at that from a jiu-jitsu's perspective, if you keep pushing someone outside the mats, they're actually probably going to give you a penalty. They're not going to give you a score if you consistently do that.
Yeah, I agree. I hate freestyle wrestling. I mean, I love the takedowns. It's so amazing. Those guys are so great. They're much better wrestlers than me. But I just hate I hate that you get awarded for push outs. I hate that there's a lack of control with takedowns, whereas in folk style wrestling, it's way more control based. Um, I don't know. I just don't. Freestyle is just kind of weird to me, but that's just me. Some people are gonna hate that opinion, but I like jiu-jitsu wrestling. I like the way ADCC does it. Sometimes, but like for the most part, I really like ADCC rule sets for wrestling because it's I don't know, it's like it's real dominance, real control, and it's really hard to score, which makes it fun. It's that's me.
Would you say, like, if we were saying IBJJF, ADCC rules, who's number one, UFC Fight Pass rules, would you say that ADCC rule set is the best for wrestling, the best for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, ADCC or IBJJF. Lots of people for like advantages are so useful in IBJJF because I can do like a knee cut and not actually pass you, but just get you to react a little bit, and it's like, oh, That's one, that's an advantage, whatever. So I like that about IBJJF. The only thing I don't like about IBJJF is that it's belted, meaning like you only compete against purple belts. Like I'm a purple belt, so it's like I'm only allowed to compete against purple belts, and I have to wait like 2 to 3 years until I'm even allowed to do the brown belt division. I don't really like that about IBJJF, but if everyone was just allowed to compete at black belt at IBJJF, I really like IBJJF rules, and I really love ADCC rules. I hate ADCC World Championship rules. It's too long, I find. Like we've been practicing, me, Couch, and Pixley. We've been doing these like 40-minute passing matches that Heath has been doing where we're getting shark tanked and like one guy's on top for 40 minutes because you're like, oh, you might have a 40-minute match. And I'm just like, this is horrible. This is so stupid. But I love ADCC trials because it's like 3 minutes and 3 minutes. And you're like, oh, you can do a lot of fun stuff can happen in like the time of that. And IBJJF rules for purple belts is 7 minutes, I believe. So it's good. I love those two rule sets when the time is low. I hate the ADCC finals rules. They're so stupid. It's so long, but it's still the most prestigious tournament in the world. So I still want to try to win it eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, some of those finals can be pretty brutal to watch. Just like both guys are gassed out.
Yeah, it's horrible. Who's grappling for 40 minutes? It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so boring. And it's so easy to. It's not cheating the rules. I guess it's not cheating to take advantage of your allowance to stall and to not have any real action. Then it's like, this is so horrible to watch. This is so boring to watch, with few exceptions, or watching a Gordon Ryan unlimited time match. It's like I'd rather stab myself in the eyes than watch that, which some people would disagree with me again on that. But if you make the rules are the time limit shorter, I love both of those rule sets.
I'm curious. So we've talked about Nicky Rod and kind of his run. The Black Belt Slayer documentary was about his run in 2019. Other than Nicky Rod, I feel like we haven't seen a wrestler do as well as he has in ADCC recently. Obviously, the early ADCCs, there was a lot of wrestlers who did very well, got gold. I feel like in recent times, we haven't seen it as much. No. What do you think is going on there?
Well, number one, he's a freak athlete. I don't know people who have actually trained with him. I've trained with him. If anyone who actually knows him, he's super hard worker. He's super disciplined, and he's just a freak. He's also just a freak athlete. So that really helps. And he's in the ultra heavyweight division, which we can all admit is a bit easier than 66 through minus 99. Plus 99 is. I'm a plus 99, right? But it's still, I can admit that plus 99 is much easier than all the other ones, especially if you're like him or, anyone who's got some wrestling in them. And I just think that the athleticism at a bigger weight class, plus him being super disciplined and working super hard. He's a freak. He's awesome. But at the lower weight classes, who's even been a good, PJ Barch, I guess he beat JT, but still, he only ended up getting fourth, getting submitted twice right after. So it's just jiu-jitsu is hard, dude. I think just jiu-jitsu is hard. Jiu-jitsu is just so hard, and plus 99 works really well for wrestlers most of the time, unless they're going against really good leg lockers. Because again, you can stall, you can be a little bit more athletic. It's just an easier weight class. It's not easy. I'm in plus 99. Someone's gonna be like, "It's not easy, Brandon." Like, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier. Like, we can all look at it and be like, "Oh, there's some big chunky guys, and then there's these small, fit, athletic guys in the other weight classes, which tend to be a lot more technical too." So I think there's so many variables for why Nicky Rod is doing so well. That's a long-winded answer. So sorry about that.
No worries. I think the 2019 run of his is the most interesting because obviously after that he started training jiu-jitsu very seriously. He went to Danaher Death Squad, now B Team, of course. But his 2019 one, he really was probably as pure as he could get to like a wrestling base. And I think he got his purple belt on the stage, right?
Yeah,
he was a blue belt getting silver medal at ADCC.
It's crazy.
And is there anything like in that particular one where you're like, ooh, like those things he was doing there, that particular skill or that particular way he was using the rule set really worked well, and that maybe you're gonna steal.
I've been trying. Yeah, I really love that I love that run. His second one was really dominant too up until the finals, but like the first one is like really impressive because like he was just doing flying knee cuts and double under passes that he never completed anything, but he would just there was no body lock passing back then. He was just flying knee cut, double under, flying knee cut, double under, maybe get like a rear naked choke without hooks in. Like he just kept moving, you know. I thought it was even though I know it's not technically super technical, it was so impressive because he just like but people don't realize how hard it is to do what he was doing. Like he just kept moving. And at ADCC, it really awards activity, right? It awards the aggressor and attempts, even though there's technically no advantages. And besides the Muhammad Ali match, which anyone could say that one's pretty up in the air about who won that match. But besides that one, he definitely won the other matches. I'm definitely stealing his style a lot. Man, there was mistakes that I made at trials, which I really should have stuck to. I call it like the Nicky Rod game plan, being a little bit more cagey and a little bit, more outside passy. But man, it was just fun. It was a mindset thing, like just being a dog, and that's why I love that documentary so much because you're like, man, he was just being a dog. He said, flying knee cut, be tough. Flying knee cut, be tough, and yeah, that was a super cool run. The second run was almost boring. I found. I don't know. Well, he had Damon Ramos, Philippe, and John Hansen, and it's like none of those matches were like crazy,
Well, he had Philippe Pena, which I think that was a bit of a surprise. When he actually got the body lock on Philippe Pena and passed. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I thought Pena would
really. That's crazy. I knew it. I figured. Bro, he's so good. His arms are so. I mean, he's just a powerful dude. Philippe does have like the best guard at plus 99 for sure. Him or Luke Griffith probably. Like one of those two guys have the best guards for sure. But probably Pena. But I don't know.
I guess it was just interesting. I think Philippe, when in 2015 to kind of like 2017, he was just seen as like a monster, a beast, but at a lower weight category than over 99. And so to see Nicky Rod actually like complete a body lock pass on Pena was like, okay, he's like risen to another level. Like we can start talking about him amongst this another elite set of grapplers.
Yeah, it's true. People don't. People are just like, oh, he's just big and strong, and you're like, dude, it's so hard to body lock pass. Like Jacob, I'm training with Jacob Couch, right? I can't even imagine body lock passing him, and it's like now do that with someone even better, like Philippe, who's also big. You're like, man, how is Nicky Rod so like? It's not just physicality. I'm almost probably 70 pounds bigger than Couch, and even if I get my hands locked, actually doing the pass. It's so impressive. Philippe is super awesome, and that run was boring, but more impressive maybe because he beat Philippe versus he beat Cyborg in the semi in the other one, which Cyborg's a little old, but whatever. Anyways, I digress. So,
talk to me how training has been going at Pedigo. Like, what are the things that you, Pixley, and Jacob are working on to get you prepared for ADCC?
Yeah, it's really good. Heath is a unique coach. He's fun. We're just game planning a lot, for our weight classes. Like for me in particular, I know there's gonna be lots of leg lockers. Dan, Luke, Perez, other guys. So it's just kind of navigating that, and then with Pixley and them, they're doing a lot of stuff. It's been great, like having Pixley as a wrestling partner too. For the most part, I don't usually have another guy where we're both really good wrestlers. It's kind of hard to come by in jiu-jitsu. Originally, I came out to Pedigo because I wasn't invited to ADCC yet, but Pixley needed another big guy partner, and I was like, I just want to go out there and help. So going with Pixley, it's been great for my wrestling. And then Couch is just like he's like a jiu-jitsu addict. So any questions I have, it's amazing. It's great. Heath, the dude has a system. It's been great. I've been going to seminars. So we usually, how the training goes, it's like usually pretty hard throughout the week. And then on the weekend, he'll take us to like a seminar, however far away, and that's more where like our real like technical thing goes. He just kind of shows like the same passing stuff over and over again, so that the guys going to ADCC can like work on it. So it's been really good. Strategically, I feel like I've gotten way better, and technically, I've gotten a lot better too. Um, it's a great room, and the guys are so funny. They're super cool. So yeah, it's a great training environment. I've been everywhere too. I've been to B Team, I've been to Essential, I've been to New Wave. I love all those places. Like they're all super fun. But as far as like the training partners and like the very focused coaching, Pedigo's been my personal favorite.
It's interesting because Jacob in particular would probably address some of those concerns you have about leg locks, right? Because he's
He
a
does a
very good
lot,
walker in his own
bro.
right.
He's amazing. He's been super helpful. Like he's very nitpicky with me, which is very funny. Like I don't know if you've ever met him, but if you meet him, he's very like if he cares about you, he's very nitpicky. So it'd be like, Brandon, you're doing this wrong. No, Brandon. He's like, oh, you just got submitted. Oh, you're submitted. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, I can't do anything right. But it's really good because I'm getting a lot better because I've had good coaching, but I've never had someone very particular with leg locks. And being around Jacob and Spatch, who kind of helps coach, he's an athlete, but he's also like a coach. They've been very particular with helping me like progress in that little area because I still have that bad habit of I have decent like leg lock defense, but sometimes in matches I freeze, and I'll end up getting caught more than I do in practice. And they're really trying to nip that bud in the head or whatever the saying is. It's been really nice having guys who are particularly great with that. And then Pixley's just been great because I'm so used to shooting on people and being able to finish every time. This guy, bro, you shoot on him and you mess up, you're gonna get darsed or guillotined. So it's been great having both these guys just kind of dissect my weaknesses quite a bit, and I couldn't have better practice partners, to be quite honest.
Yeah, round out your game in those
Yeah,
weaknesses. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about your ADCC trials run, your most recent one where you got the bronze medal. I don't think anyone actually stood with you, did they? They all just pulled guard on you, correct?
I was so mad. Yeah, I was I was so mad, man. But JT and I had like a good plan. So I did all my ADCC trial camps at Essential. It was great. But I was so mad because like, okay, we at JT's they do these really hard wrestling practices. Like they're crazy. It's just a bunch of drilling. Um, which whether or not you like drilling, it is what it is. But it was very, very hard drilling. So I was like, man, I'm so ready to wrestle. Let's go. And then the one guy I was supposed to wrestle, he forfeited the match for third and fourth place. Another college wrestler. I was like, okay, I'm about to school this dude because I've been prepared. So no one wrestled me. I just passed. But luckily, JT is the king of headquarters and knee cuts, and so that's pretty much what I did and some bolo stuff.
You had
I wish I could wrestle
knee
more.
wedge back take, which I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, chef's kiss right there.
Yeah, that's my people don't know, man. That's my stuff. I don't feel too scared of heel hooks because I've gotten really good at that feel. What really scares me are like Aoki locks and straight ankle locks. They're freaking hard, man. They're the play between the two. Like, oh, he's gonna do a heel hook, or oh, he's gonna do a straight ankle lock. I'm still so young at jiu-jitsu, which people tend to forget, to where it's like I'm still trying to develop like a better feel there. But yeah, the run was fun. There were some tight matches, but I felt good. I had a really good game plan until the Mike Perez thing happened. I think I let the moment get to me a little bit, and I was an idiot. I passed him, and then he recovered guard, and then I tried to leg lock him, and I was just like, my coach Chewy was just like, "Why did you try to leg lock him? You're an idiot." I was just like, "Yeah, you're right." But the moment got to me. I can admit that I should have. I think I should have just slowed down, and the body lock pass worked. I probably think I could have gotten through that match being a little cagey and then going back to my body lock. But it was a fun run. I was super grateful. It was my third ADCC trials. I finally placed. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like it's really awesome. It was disappointing at the same time because I didn't win, and I worked really, really hard to win. But it is what it is.
But there's a lot of great takeaways for you because, like we said earlier, everyone just pulled guard on you, so you didn't actually get a chance to show off like your main strength. You actually had to rely a lot more on your jiu-jitsu.
I know, but can't sell instructionals with that. That was like, yeah, it's
That's
hard
not
to
your
sell.
niche.
It's not my niche. They're not going to be like, all right, how to pass boring guard passing, how to get to headquarters and knee cut people. They're not gonna. No one's gonna buy that. But it's it was super fun. Like I said, training with JT made it a lot. I was a lot better at guard passing going into this trials versus the last one, where I was just body lock passing people, which got me in trouble because I ended up getting go plotted. I had a little bit better of a game plan this past trials, but that game plan kind of went out the door in the semis. I got a little excited, and I duly regret. I duly regret trying to leg locks a guy who beat Gordon Ryan back in the day. So it is what it is.
It happens to everyone. That's the
Yeah.
best one.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm wondering, we've been talking about kind of this wrestling, jiu-jitsu kind of thing this whole time now. I want to know now if you've been following CJI and if you've seen like there's now these wrestlers coming in with like Daniel Kirk-Fleet, we've got Jason Nolf. How do you think they're going to do in a much, how would you say, a more submission grappling oriented rule set? Do you have any predictions?
I think they're going to do horrible. I think they're going to do really bad. I think, I mean, I guess like the reality is that wrestling is not jiu-jitsu, and I'm not as good of a wrestler as Jason Nolf or Kirk. No way, not even close. But I'm still a pretty freaking good wrestler, and I know that just purely with wrestling, it's not gonna work out very well with me. And even if they have been training jiu-jitsu, which I believe Jason has for a bit, and I think Kirk does it on and off a bit, they've never really competed at a high level. Jason had the match with the guy from B Team, but the guy from B Team is also just a wrestler, and it's not saying he's bad. He's probably great, but I don't know. I had to see it. It's kind of interesting to me that some of the people that Craig invited, just because it's like, man, I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but it's I don't think they're gonna do too well. I think you could do some good matchups. Like it'd be very smart to be like Owen Livesley versus Greg Kirk. That to do that match, that'd be fun. Or Pedro Alex versus Greg Kirk, because Pedro's he's gonna try to wrestle a little bit more. Nolf, I don't see a single good matchup for Nolf in the division. I think that division is crazy. That division is so wild. It's so stacked. I think Nolf for sure is going out in the first round, and I think Kirk, he might get past the first round if he has like Owen. But other than that, I mean, let's be honest. I don't think he's gonna beat any of the other guys. He could. I could be totally wrong. Or maybe Pat Downey. Maybe if he had Pat, he could get past the first round for sure. But I think it's a bit of like a gimmick having them in there, especially because they didn't actually compete in any professional jiu-jitsu events before. And I think they're very interesting choices for an event that's supposed to support professional jiu-jitsu athletes. But that's just my opinion. And yeah, it's a great event though. It's going to be super cool. I am super excited to watch it while I'm also doing ADCC. I'm for sure gonna watch it. So I'm definitely excited.
Well, that's a really good point that you bring up that I don't think has really been talked about, in that, yes, you can be really accomplished in wrestling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you've earned your badges in submission grappling, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that is also kind of hinting like what we've been talking about this whole time with kind of wrestling versus jiu-jitsu, is that just having a submission threat alone can drastically change things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And maybe 100%. Kirk Fleet is an animal. He's like a freak of a human being, and he's a very technical wrestler. But man, that is a big if.
It's a really big if. If he has like Kyle Bame in the first round, he's not gonna make it past Kyle Bame. Because Kyle Bame's not gonna wrestle with him. He's gonna pull guard, and he's either gonna take Kirk's back or he's gonna leg lock him. And if either of those things happens, 100% know that Kyle's gonna get the submission. Like Yeah, it's interesting. Again, it's when I was talking to one of my friends, and it's not to like poo poo on Craig because I actually really like Craig. I think he's super nice, and I think the event is super awesome. My only thing was the gimmickiness of the. You say that you want to support professional jiu-jitsu athletes, but then you bring in guys who've never done a professional jiu-jitsu event. So it's a bit, I don't know. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too, type of thing I found. And again, it's not a shot at Craig. Craig's awesome. He's amazing. I think CJI is awesome. I think it's super cool, and I think it's very smart. And I wouldn't be in ADCC if it wasn't for CJI. So it's not like a shot at Craig or anything. It's just like, this is kind of weird. The people you invited when there were probably other guys that you could have probably brought in to the tournament who you didn't. But maybe he just didn't have anybody else who wanted to do it. So maybe that's also the reason. But I don't know. It's just an opinion, and it's not a shot at Craig. It's just a thought.
I think you're bringing up a bigger question there, which is, and people talk about this a lot, and I personally don't have a huge opinion on it, but is there a difference between grappling and jiu-jitsu? Is there a difference between grappling and wrestling, right? Is CJI a grappling event or is it a jiu-jitsu event? Is ADCC a grappling event or is it a jiu-jitsu event? It's like, what is grappling?
Yeah, I was about to say it's all semantics, right? It's like we get in there, we shake hands, they can pull guard, I can do a takedown, they can do a submission, I can do a submission, I can pass guard. Like, what is it? It's like it's another thing, like an interesting phenomena coming into jiu-jitsu is words, like the extreme it's the extreme nitpickiness with specific wording. And like, bro, it's jiu-jitsu. There's submissions with no punches or kicks. It's jiu-jitsu to me. It's like there's no punching, kicking, elbows. That means it's not MMA, right? And can you win by a pin or exposure points? Well, that's wrestling. There's no submissions in wrestling, right? But if there's takedowns, submissions, guard passing, guards, sweeps, it's to me it's all jiu-jitsu. So I don't think, I don't think people who don't have good jiu-jitsu are going to do well at non-jiu-jitsu, or I don't think people who don't have jiu-jitsu are going to do very well at most jiu-jitsu tournaments that are decently high level. We talked about Nicky Rod, but that was a bit of an exception and not really the rule when he first started, and there's just the nuance of the weight classes is a lot easier too. So,
and to give a little bit of credit to Nicky Rod and to his coach, like his coach at the time was Jay Regal Budo, who is currently the head referee of North America ADCC.
Yeah, Jay's awesome.
That's a guy who understands the rule set and would have been able to say to Nicky Rod, like, hey, as a wrestler, these are your strengths. This is how you can win against jiu-jitsu people who have submissions. So just follow this game plan and do it. And again, and you mentioned this before, Nicky Rod had incredible discipline to follow that. Right. So there should be credit given there that it wasn't just Nicky Rod being like a meathead kind of wrestler.
Yeah.
Like he had a very specific plan. He had very good coaching that led him to do as well as he could do.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he often gets like discredited, and you're just like, if it was just true that athletic wrestlers were going to do well at ADCC, then why aren't more of them doing really well? I can't name a national champion wrestler who won, like a guy who's a national champion, any of the divisions in any country that won ADCC or even medaled. Nicky Rod's the only guy that wrestled in college that I'm like, oh, he did really well. Now there's guys coming up, right? Pixley is a national champion and he's going to ADCC. I'm going to ADCC. Dorian is like a really good high school national champ. He's going to, but still unproven, and if it was so easy, everyone would have done what Nicky Rod does, but not many people have yet, and I respect them for it because people make it sound very easy, but you're like, it's not that easy, guys. It's really hard.
Do you want to see more wrestlers getting into jiu-jitsu, getting into things like ADCC?
No, just keep them away from me. Bro, wrestling is so hard. Yeah, sure. Like there's some great guys. Kyvan Gatson just started doing jiu-jitsu. He's a Division I national champion wrestler. He just started doing jiu-jitsu. So it's gonna be cool to see him. Yeah, I think it's really difficult to switch sports. There's lots of guys who are really good at wrestling. Whatever good means, like relative to their own levels and their divisions. Like there are lots of guys who are really good who try jujitsu, but very few. Like, I mean, very few are doing true jujitsu camps, going to really good jujitsu coaches, watching instructionals. I mean, anyone who does these things knows just as much as I do. Like, you have to do so much to even win a couple matches at like an ADCC trials, and man, it takes a lot of discipline to do it. Like, hey, I'm gonna go buy this instruction, or hey, I'm gonna go fly out to B team or Mount Vernon with Pedigo, or go to New Way. Like, there's so much investment that I think it's kind of hard to go from being really good in one thing to another thing, and being willing to commit yourself to like the transformation, and also be willing to lose in very embarrassing ways, and then have people talk shit about you, at the same time, because if you're a good athlete who ends up coming into jiu-jitsu from wrestling, you're going to take your L's. It's just natural, right? And I feel like the ego is very sensitive, and it's very hard to like let go of like the wrestler identity, especially if you were a good wrestler who was always winning, to becoming a guy who for a long time is going to lose in the big matches. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of stuff that takes a good wrestler and make them into like a good grappler or submission grappler, and maybe lots of people aren't really willing to do that, but a couple of us are. So we're doing our best.
So talk to me about ADCC. Who are you most excited to go against? Who do you want first pick?
Man, I would love to go against anyone. I'm not scared of a single person, man. I'm it's the whole scare money don't make money thing, right? Who was it? Who said that? Was it Frank Sinatra? I don't know. I heard Austin Gomez. He was a wrestler. He's an Olympian who said it. And I've always loved that. Man, I would love to go against Mike Perez again, but I know that's not going to happen because Mo said that he's not going to do rematches in the first round. I think Philippe Pena would be a great one. I would love to do it. Again, it's all data for me, so win or lose, it's all data. But I've been working on a lot of new stuff. I think a fan friendly matchup would be someone who's going to wrestle more. So Philippe's not going to wrestle. Heki Jusla, the guy that beat Big Dan, I don't know that would happen, but he might get a really high seed because he beat Dan. So Heki would be great. Damon Ramos would be another one because he's just another wrestler. But again, I don't think that's going to happen because it's another like invitee. Man, there's so many fun matchups. Definitely, I'm trying to sell some instructionals. So let me get someone that's going to wrestle. I want to hit some cool stuff. That's just what I'm all about. That's why I love jiu-jitsu. I love hitting cool shit. It's super fun. But anyone is fine. I'm mentally prepared to go against everyone. And, I always tell people, like, before I compete, I'm always like, win or lose, I'm more than this moment. And it allows me to compete freely. And I can only control what I can control. So I'll try to scrap with everyone. And in my mind, I can beat everyone, whether that's true or not, whatever. But I would love to go against someone who wants to wrestle. That would be great.
Well, strategically, I feel like when you have the kinds of, say, top players, wrestlers competing against each other, I find they almost do better then. Like when you say have like these very contrasting styles, like if you look at Lachlan Giles versus Muhammad Ali, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was so one-sided because Lachlan is just so completely different to Muhammad that, well, okay, it's only going to go this one way, right? Whereas when you have kind of these two wrestlers or these two like guard passers, that's kind of actually when you start to see the sparks fly and you think, ooh, I don't know where this is going to go.
Exactly. You want an exciting match. A Heisem would be another great one. I mean, that's actually who I'm hoping my first match is against, is Heisem Rita. I think he's a super cool guy. He's a very friendly person. I think I can make some fun stuff happen in that match. Plus, who doesn't want to go against like a big name person, whatever that means. But yeah, dude, that's you don't want to. I don't want to have like Luke Griffith or Big Dan in the first round. You know what I mean? But like, if I have to, I will. Whatever. Fear no man and all that. But definitely would cross my fingers, and I hope. I think Mo. You don't know, but I have a feeling that Mo is going to make it to where there's some interesting first round matchups. And I would love to go against someone who wants to wrestle, just because it's just on brand for me. I'm working on mostly just passing and wrestling here. Like, let's be honest, I'm doing a lot of submission escapes. So hopefully I get to scrap with someone on the feet, and I don't have another 1 minute match like I did with Mike Perez. That's just not fun. That's win or lose. That's just not a fun match to have for me. So I hope I get a good scrappy first round matchup.
Is your plan, like, are you thinking 2024 is to get data, is to get experience, and then 2026 is when you're going to go real hard? Is that what you're thinking for, is for the future?
I mean, I want to kill everybody here. I want to win still. I still want to win. Like, I'm going in and I'm trying to win. Again, I have some of the best training partners in the world. I have one of the best coaches in the world. So I still want to win. And I still believe I can win. I'm a completely different grappler than I was at trials, and I think I can win. I really do. I think I just have to. I believe in Heath and what Heath tells me. He says you can win if we do these things, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do these things. So my goal: go in there and win. As far as collecting data, win or lose, that's what I'm always thinking. It's like, okay, this is data collection. I'm trying to level up, but it's a bit of a dichotomy where I'm like, I do want to collect data. Like, that is the goal. Win or lose, I'm collecting data. But at the same time, I'm a winner. Like, in my head, I'm a winner. I want to win. I want to beat everybody. I'm afraid of nobody, which is why I said I don't care who my first round matchup is really. But there's a bit of there's a bit of both of those going on, and I'm trying not to look forward too much to anything. I know that, like, the next time I compete after ADCC might be Worlds, purple belt. Because Heath was like, you should do it. I was just like, okay, fine, whatever. But I try not to look too forward. I'm like, I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna take it one match at a time. I'm gonna try to beat these guys up and see what happens after that.
Okay, I want to know, as a fan, pick anyone from any other division than yours. Who are you most excited to see, just as a fan?
Anyone? Think. Again, I might be biased, but Pixley. I think I want to see Pixley Marigali round one. I think Pixley is going to surprise a lot of people. He just keeps getting way better. Like, at trials, there was a whole controversial thing that really sucked for Adam Bradley. Like, we all know that just sucked for Adam Bradley. Like, and Pixley knows I would say that too. Like, that just like Adam Bradley kind of got. I don't know what happened there, but I think Pixley is someone that's like he's probably the most aggressive person I've ever rolled with. Like, as far as like his ability to like kill you when he submits. And then he's the best wrestler in the division by far. It's not even close. And I think him versus Marigali is the match that I want to see the most. If I had to choose one match, it would be him versus Marigali. But then, of course, like, seeing Jacob Couch is going to be fun too, because Jacob can submit every single person in the division. In my opinion, Jacob can submit everyone. It's going to be super hard. 88 is so tough. It's probably one of the tougher divisions. But yeah, Pixley, my number one, and then Pixley versus Marigali is the match that I want to see.
That sounds so exciting. Now that you mentioned Pixley versus Marigali, I'm like, ooh, that like reminds me of like a Ty versus Marigali, which would
exactly. Yeah, it's just a mean guy, It's just like Ty was that little scrapper, and Pixley's like a giant scrapper. He's freaking huge now. So yeah, that's the match for me to see.
Sweet. All right, Brandon, I've taken up so much of your time. Is there any message that you have for the fans at home?
No. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for giving us some insight into wrestling and jiu-jitsu and that whole world. Like I said before, I think you're the guy that speaks the best on this. And if people want to check it out, you've got your YouTube, you've got your Instagram, where you do a bunch of great breakdowns talking about wrestling for jiu-jitsu and like what works best for it. So people, please go check out Brandon there. We're going to leave links to that in the description below. And best of luck. I'm going to be at ADCC. I'm going to be cheering for you. I'll be in the crowd.
Awesome. Let's go.
Yeah. It'll be really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.